Serious, casino dealers of Reddit, what's the most money you've seen someone lose, and how was the aftermath? 60k on blackjack. Guy didn't even blink. On to the next hand. When I was a croupier I was dealing roulette. Guy was up around 20k. By the time I had finished with him he had lost it and spent another 5k. He wasn't very happy. Ex-croupier here. Worked in a large casino not in America. We had a lot of Asian clientele in our VIP room. Once had a guy betting 600k per hand on baccarat. He ended up a few mil and was sharing it around the group of women escorts around him. Most I've seen lost is 10 mil in 3 weeks. He has the room booked for the month, so he made his bag man fly back to Thailand and get more money. Nothing was transferred. It was all cash. Finally, a question I can answer. I work in a well-known casino in Las Vegas. It happens multiple times per week that we get high rollers in who win or lose over $1 million. The most I ever saw a person lose was about $9 million in one night. But while that may seem like an obscene amount of money to you or I, that's what he budgeted himself to gamble that trip. He came knowing he may lose $9 million. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't happy, but he didn't lose his mind, or freak out or anything like that. Ex-croupier from Sydney. Dude turned over about 20 mil in 20 minutes. He was just there because it was uni enrollment time for his son, so decided to shout them a fun time in the inner sanctums. Another dude lost maybe 700k and didn't care. His bag man showed me photos of the private jet they travel in, which had a full-sized queen bed in it. Pretty awesome. Since I'm white, I didn't really get to deal much in the inners, but if the players lose, they just kick you out and ask for a luckier dealer, usually an Asian female. I dealt blackjack for a few months at an Iowa casino. A guy was staying at our hotel for a week on business and would play at my table at night because we had some good conversations and he had a few really good runs me. On his last hand one night he put down $500. Hit 2 8s against me showing a 6. He split them. On the first one he got a 3 and doubled down. Drew a 4 or 5. Second he got a 2 and doubled down on it as well and got another mediocre hand. I forgot what I had exactly, but I ended up drawing like 5 cards and not busting and taking $2,000 from him. He laughed and tipped me a couple of black chips. $200. I would have felt bad if I thought he couldn't afford it. We definitely had some people like that, but I got the impression he was doing just fine. I manned the roulette wheel for about 6 months back in my college days, and the most amount of money I ever saw someone lose was $2,500. He put $100 on 22 different numbers, red, even, and second half. I'll never forget his face with 0 showed up. The most amount of money I ever saw someone win was around $12,000 or so, give or take. It was around Christmas time, and a group from a business Christmas party came in. The boss gave everyone $100 and she came over. Put $100 on 13, just wanting to get rid of it and get home. 13. $3,500 instant win. She takes $3,400 back and puts $100 on 25. 25. Another $3,400 net gain. I forget the third number, but she did it again. She then put $500 on one of the colors, forget which, and about the same on the thirds, forget which. She won the thirds, lost the color, and walked. Had me call security over to escort her to cash in her sips. This took her no time at all. She was very excited, talking about how much this money would help her. I'm a dealer and I'll never forget my first night on Roulette was the most I've ever paid out. I tap onto the game and I see a duck-eyeing stack of chips on 16. Boom. 16 off the rip for like 6 different people in total. One guy got it good for like 17k. Was an eventful first night on Roulette. That game's fun to deal. Blackjack or baccarat? Awful. I saw someone that I knew. An older gentleman. In his 50s. White guy. Not rich either, but he loved to gamble on the horse races. He was pretty good at it too. He a couple of times won big. Along the lines of 19k one time. But sadly one day I saw him lose a few races, get upset, and he put down 11k on a sure bet. Yeah, well, he lost that 11k dart again. Not a rich man. That was probably almost everything. Ex-dealer. I had a very friendly, happy-go-lucky type of customer lose, approx. Youtube 900, not Youtube 56k as he states in the local paper, to me during a day shift in the casino I used to work at. He seemed quieter than usual after this. I went home at 9 PM. During the night shift he cut his wrists in the toilet and had to be stretchered out of the place. The amounts he mentions in this news article are nonsense. I'm sure he did lose a sum of money over a period of time, but nowhere near Youtube 200k. Initially I felt really sorry for him, then he sold his story to local media and bulleted them to the maximum. This was in a California card room, so you don't technically play against the house, so the house doesn't technically care who wins or loses as long as they get their collection. Basically a per hand fee to play. I was a third party banker, meaning we put up the money against whoever wanted to bet. We were licensed and everything, but didn't work directly for the casino. This one guy brought a lot of action, so the casino basically let him run his own games. He was mostly beating us regularly for several weeks at least. 250k there, 500k there. Not sure as he ever got over $1 million in a single game, but it was close. I beat him for 750k once, but at that point it didn't matter to him much, he was up so much. Couple weeks later, FBI came in and pulled him off mid-game. Turns out he was running some charity scam. Edit, story, scam. First off, a little background. Casinos in Asia are rumored to rent out tables, which means someone can pay the casino for the right to take a percentage of winnings from that table over a period of time. Basically it's money laundering. During my many trips to Macau and the Philippines, I've watched people gamble away millions every hour over days, and the only reason I can attribute their behavior is to this type of money laundering. In the 2000s this was very common to see in Macau. Acrylic covered gold plaques worth Hong Kong dollars $100,000 thrown across the table like $2 chips over a game of baccarat many times over. The first time I saw it happen I counted the amount Ray bought at $10 million, which he lost in minutes right after he had just lost a stick in similar size. When I went back a few days later he was still there doing the exact same thing. The amount he lost laundered easily broke into hundreds of millions if not more. Currently a dealer at a large casino in the US, not Vegas. I tap onto my blackjack game and this guy I'm dealing to tells me he is already down around 100k. He's a white guy, mid-50s or so, wearing a tacky plaid suit. He was betting 500-1k a hand. 2 hands every time. Over about 4 hours the guy floats between my table and the one next to me, buying in 10k at a time. I gave him one good chew the whole night, so I was busting his head essentially the whole time. A couple times it took longer for me to count his buy-in than for me to put it in my rack. There were so many $100 bills in my money box it was getting tough to put the paddle in it. My floor tells me after he leaves that he lost 209k after it was all said and done. He treated it like how I would treat losing $1 grand maybe. He wasn't happy, but he seemed like he could shrug it off. My floor was like, yay, I could pay off my entire mortgage with what he just lost. I died a little inside that day, but it's not my money after all. I'm an analyst in a tribal owned casino in a not very wealthy area, so we don't see people losing in the millions. But we've got a few patrons that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to us over the years. Most of them are local business owners. All were owners that have now sold their company for big profits. So spending that much money here, and presumably the same or more at our local competitors, doesn't seem to be a problem. One of our biggest players for about a year was a little old lady whose husband died and she didn't have anything else to spend the life insurance on. So she put a few $100,000 into this over the year. Once she finished off that amount she basically stopped playing altogether. She was just in it for the fun. She's spent enough though, and is a nice old lady. So most of the hosts comp her a free meal every once in a while, just to bring her in and check in on her. If she never spends another cent her, she's still one of our biggest players ever. Word of advice though, those folks you know who won a huge jackpot and have made so much money gambling and are big winners, well there's a really good chance that they're net negative when it comes to their spending here. We've had folks win $100k jackpots and still be $150,000 in the hole. That's how this works. You might have some big wins on occasion, but every game is advantageous to the house. not firsthand, but talked with a pit boss in New Mexico not long ago. He had a story about a girl who continued going back to the ATM while playing $5 min blackjack and eventually collapsed on the table saying she had blown a semester of tuition at Princeton. Had a college kid bet his entire net worth on a hand of blackjack on graduation weekend with his friends watching. Money wise it was under $15k, but it was literally every cent the kid had. Was dealt a 20 versus a 3 and I pulled a 6 card 21. Kid puked everywhere. Not a good look. I used to work in soft count at a casino and would take care of the machines in the high roller area. I've never seen anyone really freak out, but some people would regularly throw away hundreds of thousands of dollars on a bet like it was nothing. Meanwhile, they were surrounded by workers who just watched some arsehole piss away more money than they'd ever see in a lifetime. I'll never understand gamblers. I'm an ex-croupier in the UK. This might not seem like it, but I'm not from a big city and I hadn't been in the job long. A student came in with UACute 40. He won UACute 14,000. Then he started to lose. Instead of cutting his losses, he thought he could make it back up to 14k. The idiot lost it all. Could have wiped his student debt. Could have bought a car, holiday, deposit on house, whatever. Once you start getting greedy, you're gonna lose it all. I was a table games dealer for a while and, honestly, the people who lose it loads of money didn't really care. It was the regular Joes who would lose $300 in a night that would lose their it. Their body language would change and I could tell they were there to make money and ended up losing the money they needed to pay bills. These were the hardest. On the flip side, we would have a guy come in with bankrolls of hundreds and play for 3 hours win or lose. Biggest tip that guy ever gave was $30. Probably too late but here's my story. I am not a dealer but I was sitting by a guy who was playing blackjack at his own reserved table. He had stacks and stacks of $500 chips and was betting a few thousand per hand and losing almost all of them. Within 20 minutes I watched him lose over 10k and just pull out his wallet and grab a huge stack of $100 bills and throw them in the dealer's face. It was crazy because if anyone else did that they would get kicked out but they didn't do anything to him because he was losing so much money. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in a casino. He eventually lost all the money and the floor manager calmed him a room and walked him off the floor. Meanwhile I'm at the next table over betting $5 a hand getting pissed when I lose. I dealt a party gao game, like poker, but players play against the house instead of each other. Typically, you bet the minimum and the bonus. It's stupid not to. The bonus increases your odds to almost 50/50. Without bonus, the odds were closer to 40/60. Bet $100 and you'd expect to get about 90 back. For instance, the game is very up and down, you win some and lose some and often don't go anywhere at all. A lady walks in, refuses to get the bonus, and proceeds to lose $10,000 cash faster than seems possible. She arrives at her last 2 chips with stunning speed, displaying the absolutely itty streak of bad luck I've ever seen. Against the rules, I suggest she bet the option with her last chip. She hits a straight flush, begins crying, and walks away with $20k. Didn't tip.